A good day and welcome to this short video presenting Secure64's observations about security for mobile subscribers in the Indian marketplace. Going to cover four things. Firstly, AirTel's security announcements, their capabilities, and secondly, positions for Jio to adopt a stronger security position in the market. Thirdly, a deep dive into an RPZ feed called Abuse.CH, which has received quite some discussions recently. And lastly, a short recap on alternative Secure64 feeds. So let's dive right in.
So here we are looking at the AirTel website on its front end, some lovely glossies in terms of what they're positioning here. And the key messages from AirTel are, welcome to the safe network. And we can see here across the bottom, they're promoting three things. They're promoting the number of spam calls that have been identified and blocked. They're promoting the number of fraud links blocked per day. Interestingly, it's the same number as it was yesterday. And thirdly, they're looking at they're promoting the number of blocked SMSs. So it's spam, it's fraud, it's blocked SMSs. It's not mentioning malware anywhere. But they had some great publicity from this initiative, which they launched back in May. And let's go back to the launch. Here we are. May 15th, AirTel announced the fraud detection solution, a first in the world. I don't know about that. But anyway, have developed this in-house, as far as I know, to detect fraud and then move to block it. Okay, so they've had some great press. And here's a typical example. The blocking of 1.8 million lakhs, malicious sites, shielded 5.4 million users in the region of Telangana. There are many other things like this out there in the press, and it's getting them clearly some great visibility and leadership around this. So here we go inside their site and actually start to look at the terms and conditions for fraud. They're claiming that between the period of September 24, June 25, they reduced fraud by 14.3%. Financial losses down 68.7%. They've clearly picked a couple of data points here where there's a large gap. September 24, 8 months before they actually rolled this out for the first time. So that's some creative marketing there in terms of what they're claiming. And then we can go to suspected spam, and we can see that identification relies on usage patterns, frequency, call duration of suspicious URLs. So this clearly speaks to where the AI is looking at particular behavior things. Okay, there's no evidence whatsoever, no claim made whatsoever that AirTel are doing anything at all to block malware. They're blocking a particular niche. So against their claim back here of being the safe network, it's a safer network, but it's nowhere near best in class. It's nowhere near best in class. So the positioning I see for Jio is to match the fraud protection, bring in the malware protection, which is where key value add is within this, bring in other protections such as blocking irritating malware and what have you, and engage the press and the social community in the effectiveness that Jio brings to bear across the network in blocking these threats effectively. So here's something I invented in the Times of India. It's a mock-up, yeah, but India's point-of-sale cyber attacks, but not on Jio's network. New Delhi, Sunday 20th of October. India's cyber authorities today issued a warning about a new point-of-sale malware campaign, a sophisticated campaign to attack legacy point-of-sale terminals that run unpatched operating systems. Well, that's every point-of-sale terminal in the world, in fact, almost in the world. It's hundreds of thousands across India for sure. This is a very common attack method. The advisory describes a malware family which analysts have labelled Embedded 452. That, according to the advisory, puts malware within these outdated point-of-sale terminals so that they relay credit card details to third-party command and control infrastructure operated by a group of criminals. It's very plausible. Jio, who provide India's only malware blocking network, said in a statement today that we are already blocking the threat from Embedded 452, and we can track where it is, how it's operating, and all Jio users are immediately protected by Jio's 5G mobile network, and so on. I think that's a very realistic press release to be achieved, in the future. So let's move on from that to look at a deep dive on the high-profile open source Abuse.CH. And this page summarises the important claims they make about the feed very well. 3.67 million malware sites have been shared via our platform with this community. We've taken down 3 million plus malware sites, issued 4 million takedown notices, etc. Okay, it does sound impressive. So I logged in, made an account, downloaded the data in full, and started to make some analysis of it. And I'd like to share that. And so here we have the data I downloaded. You can see that this is updated on the 18th of October, 11:09 a.m. And on the far left side here, we see the ID. And we can see that these are rows and rows of malware identified. And the first number on there is ID number 3,680,871. So we certainly are accessing around this 3.6 million data set that they claim. However, the first thing I noticed was that this list is not 3.6 million at all. There's a database behind it at 3.6 million. I fully believe that. But the list they download, the list that's available to protect you right now, is actually, if I go down to the bottom of this list here, it's got 98,331 lines in it. So it's a lot smaller than the 6.3 million, which I guess is historical, what they've kind of tracked in terms of total. So is 98,331 a bad number? Well, let's take a look at some of that. So first thing I've done is to take this full list of URLs and I've filtered out a subset of those to start looking at the Indian domains. So here it is. We've got in column E, we've got the full list of URLs, okay, but there's a lot of replication. In DNS, you're blocking the domain. So there are only 9 Indian domains blocked, and here they are listed. You can see those. So that's a surprising number to me. It's very small, and therefore the question is, how good is that? So let's look at a few different angles on this. The first is that we can go to some intel about some really high-profile cyber attacks in India. We'll take this down from Aventus. We can see things on here: cyber fraud gangs in Bihar, Telanga cybercrime network bust, hacktivists on Indian organisation, attacks on municipal corporation, lots of finance stuff here. And I was quite interested when I got down to number 17 here. Central Bank of India phishing, infrastructure compromise. Now, this is interesting. So I read around this. I discovered that there had been at some point some compromise in some form of malware inserted into the .in domain of Central Bank of India in April 2025. So I went back to the URL database and I started to put in some domains coming from this list and other sources. That's quite easy to do. Here we are in the database. I started by putting in one of the URLs which comes from the URL house database itself. We can see it's identifies as here in the database just to check it's all working. And then I started to put in other domains. I put in various domains from the top cyber attacks in India. I didn't find any of them in the historical database of 3.6 million, that is, not on the 98,000. So I then thought, okay, maybe those attacks didn't all go into the domains. I'm sure they didn't. Let's look at some other things. Let's look at another source of data which to test the ability of this database to protect against India-specific threats. And I generated this list here. And we're looking at domains that have been in some way used over the past 2 years. So relatively recent. I got a top 10 here. I went through every one of these and I got no hits at all in the database. Okay, my very simple takeaway from this short analysis of Abuse.CH is it is very short of threats coming out of India. It may be quite suitable in other regions of the world, but this does not look like a good feed for India at all. So to summarise, Abuse.CH is claiming 3.6 million URLs, threat-associated URLs in its database. There's 98,000 of those are current, but if we translate and extract the .in domains, there's only 9. And I think this points pretty strongly to Abuse.CH being a weak source of protection for JO. So let's move on. I'd like to share some ideas and then we'll wrap this up with my 6 takeaways. So I'm going to talk about here quite briefly at a fairly high level our own commercial telco grade filter. 4 slides here summarizing the types of threats that we protect against: adware, Android malware, specifically backdoor events, botnets, command and control, I won't go through all of these, but important things. Fraud and scams, part of matching what AirTel are doing. Malicious activity, okay. Phishing, ransomware, crypto wall. Really important threat mitigation here. Further areas of malware on this slide. I'm not going to read all these down here, but we've got specific things like Trojan bankers, worms, and the ability also to remove irritating things to do with spyware. Jump now to getting more local, looking at community lists, and these are all India-specific communities, investigation, Indian sector-specific intelligence, government-specific intelligence, and the ability to work with such communities, bring them into a scheme to win bounties, seeking to engage in joint PR opportunities, to raise the profile of what JO are doing to make their network secure. I think some really important stuff there. And lastly, some special considerations for blocking new domains that are maybe less than 30 days old. A lot of these pop up, are exploited and then closed down. Of course, there's a downside to that in blocking new domains, but these all need to be considered, okay?
And so to wrap up with a few key takeaways. Number one, AirTel are today offering a narrow form of security protection. I guess they won't stay static. They're going to move that forward. They've got some good press. Number two, there's a gap in the market for JO to offer a basic professional, stay connected, stay protected sort of an offer for their customer base. That position is not occupied in the Indian marketplace. Thirdly, we tested Abuse.CH. It didn't perform well. And fourthly, perhaps a combination of a commercial telco grade feed combined with local Indian research will provide an effective mechanism to best address the local markets and provide headline grabbing attention. Thanks for listening.